Fine. Okay, so let's just go over the main concept behind electroplating. So if you want to coat, for example, if you have a iron piece of iron, okay, and if you want to coat this rod of iron, yeah, with let's say copper, so yeah, you want to coat this rod of iron with copper, right? So there's a very simple rule. Okay, this is copper. This is a very simple rule. A simple rule is that at the negative electrode, right? So the negative electrode is the cathode. So at the negative electrode, you will have the object to be electroplated, right? So Azlan, what is the object to be electroplated in this case? In the case of iron and copper,
The iron.
iron. Okay. So at the negative electrode, you will have iron. At positive electrode, you will have the metal to coat the object with. Okay. So at the
Yeah.
positive electrode, you will have copper. Okay. So now let's draw this. Okay. So we have a battery, we have this positive terminal, we have the negative terminal, and you have this electrodes, right? अच्छा ये पता नहीं I don't know क्यों करते हैं अच्छा so electrodes and then this is the positive electrode and this is the negative electrode. So at this positive electrode, what will you have at the positive electrode?
Hmm.
You will have copper, ठीक है?
Oh, copper.
Yeah. So because copper is the metal that you have to coat the object with, right? So copper at the positive electrode. At the negative electrode, we'll have iron. So yeah, because we want to coat the iron with this, ठीक है? अच्छा, अब now what happens here is that at the positive electrode, what happens at the positive electrode?
It cuts the object.
क्या?
It cuts the object and and it loses its iron to the copper.
Yeah, ठीक है? So at the positive electrode, what happens is at the positive electrode there is reduction, ठीक है? So you have अच्छा हाँ in the अच्छा एक तो ये भी होता है ना एक तो solution भी है ठीक है there is solution right in the solution you will have the ions of the metal that you want to coat the iron with ठीक है so we have copper sulfate solution इधर सही है अब this copper sulfate solution को होगा क्या right so let's look at this example सही है so we have copper sulfate solution we have copper plate at the anode so sulfate here sulfate क्या होगा sulfate will get oxidized at the positive electron ठीक है
Okay, is the blue the electrolyte?
yeah exactly the blue solution is the electrolyte ठीक है so जो ये जो मैंने यहाँ पे बनाया है ना रेड में लेवल दिस इज बेसिकली द इलेक्ट्रोलाइट एंड ये तो समझ आ गया ना कि जो इलेक्ट्रोलाइट है इट शुड कंटेन द आयंस ऑफ द मेटल दैट यू वांट टू कोट इट विद तो यहाँ पे कॉपर को कोट करना है हमने आयरन के ऊपर सो कॉपर आयंस होने चाहिए सोल्यूशन के ठीक है एंड यू विल सी व्हाई सो you have copper sulfate solution and copper sulfate solution contains Cu 2 plus ions and we have SO4 oh my god क्यों करता है SO4 2 negative ions right so we have copper ions and we have sulfate ions now sulfate ions जो हैं they're negative ions right so what will happen to sulfate ions they'll be attracted to this positive electrode सही है and they will they will lose their electron ठीक है and these electrons will travel all the way across the wire ठीक है इधर जाएंगे and they will what will happen is they will be given to this electrode right अब यहाँ पर copper है ठीक है जो copper है ना what will happen to this copper in the solution ठीक है so in this solution the copper अभी solution वाला copper है ठीक है this is not this copper electrode का copper नहीं है अभी the solution वाला जो copper है ना it will get discharged here so copper is positively charged it will be attracted to the negative electrode right समझ आ रहे हैं ना अभी तक अज़ान
Yeah, I understand.
yeah so yeah, so copper will be attracted to this negative electrode And copper will gain those electrons which यहाँ से जो सल्फेट से इलेक्ट्रॉन्स आए थे, it will gain those electrons, ठीक है. So अब कॉपर जो सोल्यूशन में जो कॉपर है ना, it will get deposited on this, ठीक है, क्योंकि कॉपर 2 प्लस after gaining those two electrons, ठीक है, it goes to copper solid, right? It goes to copper solid. So basically copper starts to get deposit on this iron electrode, ठीक है. That's the whole point. That's what we want to do. So if that iron electrode is fully submerged in the solution, so it starts to deposit on this iron electrode, and we say that iron is being electroplated with copper. सही हो गया. अब now what happens? Now the uh now the last step, now the catch. What happens is कि अब यहाँ पर तो the mass of this electrode starts to increase, right? Because यहाँ पर copper is being deposited and on the iron, right? But कॉपर आयंस आर बीइंग लॉस्ट इन दिस सोल्यूशन, ठीक है. जो ब्लू सोल्यूशन है इसके अंदर तो कॉपर आयन नहीं रहे ना, ठीक है. ओके, दे आर ऑल गेटिंग डिपॉजिटेड ऑन आयरन इलेक्ट्रोड. व्हाट विल हैपन इज कि नाउ दिस कॉपर प्लेट, दिस कॉपर प्लेट, द एनोड, व्हाट विल हैपन इज कि कॉपर विल गेट ऑक्सीडाइज्ड, ठीक है. At the anode we have oxidation, right? This copper will get oxidized, it will turn into Cu2 plus, सही है. Two electrons will also be released, and this copper will become part of the solution. So basically the copper sulfate solution था, उसमें जो copper ये वाले ions थे, they are being discharged at the iron electrode and they are being deposited on it, ठीक है. But slowly and steadily they are being lost from the solution. But now to replace those ions, copper का जो ये plate नहीं, copper anode जो है, इसमें से copper जो है ना, it will get oxidized and will replace these ions. ये देखो, ठीक है. After getting oxidized itself, it will replace the ions in the solution. But those ions will also eventually get attracted to this iron plate or the cathode, right? So now what you will see happening is over time, the mass of this copper anode will start to decrease. Okay, this copper anode will get shorter and shorter, and this iron cathode unit will get bulkier and bulkier. Okay, because now all of this copper is being transferred to this iron plate. It gets being electroplated with copper, right? So yeah, that's how electroplating occurs. This is the main concept. Hope you understand this one.